r/askreddit. What is the funniest shit that you saw at school? One kid was walking around and asking kids in his class for a dime because he just 10 cents away from buying something from the vending machine. Then he sees one of his friends walking in hallway and asks him for a dime and he says, "Yeah, I got a dime. I'll hook you up in the parking after school." He was talking about drugs, but the dime was literally 10 feet. Long story short, they found drugs and a knife in his backpack when they searched him. PE both classes, about 50 kids, sitting on benches along both sides of the gym. Teachers want to do a basketball demonstration, so they pick 3 kids at random. They're all in the middle of the gym, doing basketball, and there's a growing undercurrent of whispered words and stifled giggles. My mate nudges me with his elbow and goes, "Kid has a bone on." And he does, a full-on tent pole. By this point the giggling had gotten pretty loud. Suddenly, one of the bad kids jumps up and screams "AGHHH. He's got a bone on." Entire gym bursts into gales of laughter. Even the teachers were laughing behind their hands. One of them goes over to the kid and walks him out of the gym. Same kid also shit in the pool. Also, during a sex ed thing, the teacher asked us guys if we knew what happened when girls get excited. We were all thinking the same thing and looked around at each other until someone finally put their hand up and said, "Miss, they get a wide on." We were playing soccer in gym class and a classmate of me kicked the ball really hard and the ball hit our gym teacher right in the fucking face while he was sitting on a bench reading and his glasses flew off his face. He was fucking angry, but it was an accident, so my classmate didn't get in trouble, even though most of us think he did it on purpose. In 9th grade when I was in biology class, one of my table mates got out one of those soda pellet candies and crushed it with his IT card into dust. Then he snorted it and after a few seconds, he started sneezing a lot. I looked at my teacher and she looked disgusted before telling my table mate off and going back into the lesson. It was hilarious. My friend asked to go to the bathroom, and the teacher responded with, "I don't know. Can you?" And he said, "I don't know. Can you settle the divorce you're in?" By the way, he couldn't settle it. We once did an anti-drug play for the grade 8 students as an assessment for drama. We thought it would be good if it could look as realistic as possible, so we had our friend snort sherbet as cocaine. Except we didn't rehearse it and it turns out sherbet burns. So in the middle of this play about drugs, our friend snorts the sherbet and starts losing his mind with pain, rolling around screaming and crying and swearing, and all these 12-year-olds in the audience are either laughing at him or crying out of genuine fear. It was amazing. In high school we had a massive, planned food fight that was hyped up for like 2 weeks. I saw one kid who was always pretty clumsy and awkward get sprayed by a pudding cup that landed on the table in front of him and splatter all over his body. I threw a full PB&J sandwich sidearm like a frisbee and nailed this girl in the face. In middle school this one kid who had some special needs had to do a small presentation in front of the class and he was wearing sweatpants. He somehow got a boner halfway through and it was blatantly obvious. I felt bad for him at the time, but looking back it was pretty funny. He didn't seem to give a fuck though. Some kid at my school dressed up as a giant penis for Halloween one year. When publicly confronted by school authorities, he adamantly argued that he was dressed as a rocket ship and that they need to get their minds out of the gutters. At one point during the argument, the teacher asked a random kid nearby what the offending student was dressed in, trying to prove his point that it was a penis. The student deadpan replied, "A rocket ship, sir." It's so nice to see students supporting the sciences, which of course led to snickers and a chorus of other kids chiming in about what a nice spaceship it was. The mixture of annoyance and amusement on the teacher's face was priceless. I was in year 12, 1718 years old, and we were in biology class. We were learning about human biology. The previous day before this happened, the teacher told us all, jokingly, to bring in a urine sample of our own to do tests on. Anyway, the next day rolls around and one of my classmates had brought in a 1L bottle full of his own urine and just plonks it right on the teacher's desk. The teacher just had this look of pure disbelief and asks him what was in the bottle. At this point the whole class was in hysterics, and as my classmate told him, "You said to bring in our own sample," the teacher got up and pulled out some fake samples that the hospital down the road had kindly prepared for us. My classmate gets super embarrassed and returns to his seat, and we've all just lost it. I was on a bus getting ready to head back to school from a field trip, and this teacher gets on and literally says, "Well, I guess we're going to be late," because Desiree shit herself. She was always kind of at it and looked surprised when some of us at the front heard what she said. Then of course it spread through the rest of us, and about 15 minutes later, Desiree came on with a heavy looking plastic bag in her hand and some ill-fitting pants. LOL, she was a nice girl, so nobody really gave her too much shit about it to her face, luckily. Moral of the story though, avoid Taco Johns. We all had to take off our underwear and put shorts on for PE. We were running round the track and there was this little fat ginger kid not only coming last by a mile, but he had pumped and shat his shorts, and the cruel bastard of a PE teacher made him finish the laps anyway. I looked up at one of the school windows and there was a group of kids pointing at the kid and laughing. Oh yeah, that kid was me, and one of the kids in the window laughing was my older sister. Still funny though. A couple come to mind. A Down syndrome kid grabbed someone's backpack, which turned into a tug of war. Hearing Ethan, "No" from the victim made it sound like a dog had his bag. Another special ed kid that was huge, I mean 6'6" and 250 pounds of muscle, stiff-armed the ever-living fuck out of our gym teacher. He got loose and wasn't having it, and our 5'6" gym teacher broke his shoulder blade on the fall. The sight and thud of him hitting the gym floor will forever be etched into my memory. I can't forget the iconic ham slap. Some girl cheated on this guy, and he wasn't having it. Took a piece of Thanksgiving ham, placed it neatly in the palm of his hand, and slapped her the fuck out. In retrospect, it was scary when she hit her head and went unconscious, but the split moment of the ham slap was hilarious. Hammare time was a joke at my table for a while. Oh man, I have a good one. So we used to play this game with Snapple cans at lunch in middle school. I remember it was always Snapple because that's the only canned drink they had available. We would drink about half of it, anywhere from 14-34 for variable weight, and slide it upright at each other across the octagonal lunch tables, at high speed, maybe 8 feet across. The other person had to catch it without spilling, then slide it back. As you can imagine, the school did not approve of this game. Messes were frequent and very sticky. The game, however, soon grew too powerful for the poor lunch ladies to handle. 300 kids, 60 some odd tables with 30 or so games going on at all times. Eventually the dean gets called in, all goes quiet, and right as she starts to yell at all of us, someone in the back just eats a Snapple and it explodes on the wall like 10 feet above the dean's head, soaked him and the surrounding tables. The place fucking erupted. Me and my friends were talking in the cafeteria, and this was in middle school, so we were minding our own business when we heard this special needs kid scream, "I am the best Rainbow Six Siege player here." So naturally after school everyone wanted to 1v1 him. He was playing like shit until he said, "Hold on, I play better when I sneak my parents' vodka." He was a cool kid and just had slight autism. We heard him take the longest drink I've ever seen to this day. He proceeded to absolutely destroy anyone no matter what. My school has a lot of people with foreign sounding names, and most teachers know them, but this new white gym teacher didn't, and it was very obvious as he called attendance. Normally, if a teacher doesn't know how to pronounce a name, they try to pronounce it a few times, slowly, but this guy, with no hesitation, said loud and proud, with a straight face, "Anus." The poor man was new, so I think everyone was afraid to make fun of him, but you could feel everyone holding back their laughter. Some girl that stole money from me in January, and we knew she did it because she admitted it to one of my friends. But because her friends would change their story, we couldn't prove it. I decided to let karma catch up to her, and the day it did was spectacular. She is on parole, and if she gets into a fight she will get into a lot of trouble, or that's what I understood. She must have pissed off another girl in our school, because while I was talking to my friends after school waiting for my ride, a girl started screaming at her in the Great Hall. She clearly didn't want to fight because of what would happen to her being on parole and tried to get away, but the other girl grabbed her. They fought for like 5 seconds and then the girl who stole money from was held by the ponytail she had and was slammed in the ground twice, and all I could think of was the scene from Avengers with Hulk and Loki.